again, everyone, and welcome to 90s to Now. I am Jerry Strauss. And folks, if you were alive in the 90s, you know our guest this week. You know Friends. And you know everyone that was probably part of that pantheon of characters that intermingled with those six special people. And you know our guest from so many other things as well. We're going to talk about all the highlights this week because we have Bonnie Somerville here with us. We're looking at her. Hi, Bonnie.
Hi.
It's so good to talk to you.
Thank
Um,
you.
I want to ask you right off the bat. First of all, we mentioned Friends, and I know we joke about it, but to this day, as we're talking, because people are still watching that frickin' show so much, is that still the character that you get asked about the most?
Yes, it's bittersweet. I'm so grateful. It's awesome. It has given me a livelihood, home, car, and I loved it. But it's very, very weird that my fiance's stepdaughters that were not born when I did Friends, people are like, "You are Mona." It's just bizarre. It's like it's had a new it's weird. It's really weird.
And you, just to clarify for those who are a little bit fuzzy on this, you played Mona, who dated the character of Ross for less than 10 episodes, right? Like it was later on in the series.
10 episodes. 10.
Okay. Okay.
Which,
Um,
by the way, not to brag, one of the longest running guest stars in the history of Friends. Just gonna put that out there.
absolutely, absolutely. And what I was going to say is that, I mean, you should take it as such a compliment that it feels like you were on the show a lot longer. I was shocked to see that you were only on for those few episodes, but you made such an impact
Yeah.
on so many people and continue to as they continue to watch the show. Kudos to you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, I always say my fiance and I are working on a show, and I always say, because my character was mentioned like every week, even if I
Mm,
wasn't on, my character was mentioned so that people think like it made me a bigger deal.
right.
Not yeah, because that's a good thing. That's a good thing. But I would be talked about and not work for 2 weeks. And it'd be like, well, what's wrong with Mona? Oh, that's a famous, yeah. I get that all the time. Guys, I get that all the time. What was wrong with Mona? I get it. But it would just continue and continue and continue. So it helped me professionally. But it's so funny that yes, I did not as much work as people think I did, because yes, they would bring it up all the time.
And that was kind of part of the joke, is that you were, and it's so funny. We'll I was going to bring this up later, but when you look at Mona compared to all the other boyfriends and girlfriends that the main cast of Friends had over the years,
Mhm.
Mona was like the flawless one, right? Like your character was like the normal one in this sea of these people who had all these flaws and idiosyncrasies. And the running joke was almost that Ross would keep kind of forgetting about you because he was so tied up in all the craziness of the other friends and stuff going on in his life. And
Yeah,
like you were just so like perfect that you didn't have to be around because
that
he.
was so perfect. Oh, well, I wish I was like that in my real life. But no, yes, he would bring me up. They would bring me up. Like I would work. Let's say I would do 2 episodes. Then I would not work for. But in the 2 episodes I wasn't in, they would be like, "What's going on with Mona?" So I feel like the public or the viewers kept hearing about Mona. So
Mhm.
it made me way more successful,
Yeah.
thankfully, and employed than I was. So thank you for that.
They got the most bang for the buck with you. They really stretched your
They did.
presence and your existence on the show
They did.
thin.
They did.
I want to go back a little earlier, really quickly, before we get back to the Friends era, so to speak, because I thought it was really interesting that you studied musical theater in college, and we know, those of us who know your career really well know that you were uh you got a little bit of notoriety, a little bit of fame, a little bit of buzz because of your inclusion on the Garden State soundtrack, the movie that Zack Braff put out a lot earlier in his career. But was music and musical theater, was Broadway the goal? Like, is that your original direction?
Yes, I saw Annie when I was 7 years old, and I was an obnoxious, narcissistic, precocious child that said, like, "I'm gonna do that." Yeah, and, I was a complete pain in the ass, and so I went to musical theater camp, school, I mean, my entire life, and in high school, I was a cheerleader, but I was also in the drama department, so I was like,
Mm.
I was like
A
in 2. Yeah.
dramatic cheerleader. Wow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, no. Oh, you have no idea. So yes, I did. I got into Boston College and I studied musical theater, and then I transferred to NYU, Tisch, which is obviously, the place. And that was my goal. And then I had an opportunity because I was in a band. I had an opportunity, so I left college because we got a record deal, and so I left. So it was.
Mhm.
I don't want to like recommend this to people. Like it's weird, but I had an opportunity, so I took it.
Mhm.
But it was always Broadway and music. That was my first love.
Yeah, and, we can look at your resume and just see that you conquered so many different other types of worlds as well from, obviously the sitcom stage to dramas, all different kinds of TV and film. Did you find that your experience on the stage, did that make being on that traditional sitcom stage, which you've done several times in your career, is that kind of a comfort zone for you, being in front of a studio audience and just being in that environment, performing that way?
You know what? That's a really good question. Yes, you're actually right. No one has asked me that question ever. Yeah, that is a really good question. I find I'm very comfortable with the live studio audience. And I mean, I had 3 record deals. I mean, I used to perform all over the world, New York, LA, and get rejected for a living, but like it was kind of normal. And when you do 1 hour series, which I've done, episode, it's very, very different. It's not immediate. So you're right. Yes, having that like audience laugh and just yes, yeah, it is. That definitely is my comfort place.
Yeah, happy place.
Yeah.
Um, it that makes it all the more it makes me all the more interested in asking you about something else I saw now.
Oh.
As a
Oh.
teen growing up in the '90s, I couldn't help but notice that I think it was
What
your
did
s
don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say that. 90s.
I'm sorry. Well, we're kind of if you look at the name of the show, you're kinda screwed.
I'm kidding. Yeah, I know. I'm old. I'm old. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna drop some other numbers at you now,
Oh
5
no.
of them, as a matter of fact, because I think it was your 2nd role on record. You did a bit of time on Beverly Hills 90210, and, I mean, look, first of all, another show that stands the test of time from that era. People still talk about it, but also I feel like that's such an interesting show because it's almost like the Love Boat of the '80s. Like, you can go back and watch any episode of 90210, and you could see any variety of, like, '90s or somewhere in the future, someone who eventually will become a recognizable name. Like, they all pass through 90210 like a rite of passage. Like, what was it like for you, especially so early in your career?
Thank
Because
you.
that's where all the
Thank
cool
you for
kids
saying
were, right?
let's accent very early. I did the last season very early in my career. No, go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay. Yes, and you were only, like, 12 at the time, so
No, I was like dripping in afterbirth. Yeah.
And there's
Too
our
much?
headline, ladies and
Too much?
gentlemen.
Um, no, you know what? It was really I was living in LA. I had my last record deal. I got dropped from Interscope. I was like pretty much down like and out. Like I was working 3 jobs. I remember I was incredibly in debt. My mother, God bless her, was helping me. Um, and I had 3 SAG cards that I was an extra, you know, but I still didn't have the money.
Mhm.
This was back in the day, guys, when it was actually hard to be an actress. Now it's apparently easy. Um, and I had no money, and I said to my mom, will you help me pay uh, for my dues because I got this episode, and she sent me the money,
Mhm.
and that was an amazing experience just because forget the show, but I got to like I was like, oh my God, I'm actually a SAG like I'm actually in SAG. Not to
Mhm.
mention, yes, the show was amazing. I mean, Luke Perry, God rest his soul, like he was lovely and wonderful. But it was really at the point where I thought, like, what am I going to do? Like,
Yeah.
what am I going to do now? You know?
90210 saved your career. Saved your life. I just like the sound of that. Like, that's a good
He was, by the way, it's so sad that he passed away. I mean, I'm his age, so that scares me, but
Yeah.
he could not have been more. I was a nervous wreck. I had never been a leading or semi-leading. He was so wonderful
Yeah.
and helped me so much because I was a mess. Like I never had a role other than being in the background, you know?
Right.
I was I was like not in the background. Like I had to like show up and I did. By the way, I also dyed my hair brown, which you guys can look up. Not a good look. Not a good. But he was so lovely to me.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's great that you have great memories of that. I thought
Yeah.
when you first reacted to it, I thought you had, like, a bad memory of the
No, no.
experience, so
I'm just being self-deprecating, like getting old, but no, he was lovely, and obviously I watched it. I mean, like, of course I did. I mean, like this was the last. It was the last season, but for 5 years, of course I watched it.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Um, so 90210, kind of would you say that kind of changed things? Did you feel like you started gaining momentum after that, get more visible, and start being considered for more parts beyond just being in the background immediately after that?
Absolutely not.
Oh. There's a
No,
swerve. Was not
no.
expecting that
It
answer.
was it was a great role,
Yeah.
but it was kind of, it was yeah, I'm happy to get it, but no, it wasn't because I think because you know why? Because the show was on its way out.
Mhm.
And I missed that with like Friends. When I did Friends, I was so lucky. I was in the whirlwind. I was in the Emmy nominate, like, but 90210, no, it didn't help me at all.
Yeah.
Well, it helped me as far as financially and getting into SAG, but
Mhm.
did it do anything? No, no,
Okay.
no.
But you get there. You get there. You find your way to this amazing opportunity, which is, as anyone who follow has to follow their dream and doubts whether anything's gonna happen, it's just that idea of being prepared for the
Yes,
luck that and the opportunity when it arises, and
100%,
clearly that
100%. I mean, it was for me personally.
yeah.
I mean, to answer your question, professionally, did it help me? No. Personally,
Mm.
yeah, it was amazing. It was like I needed it so badly because at the time I was working 3 jobs. It was everything was just not happening. You know what I mean? So yes, yes, professionally, maybe didn't get me the next job, but personally, it made me continue and gave me so much like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, motivation, hope.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Now, fast forwarding back to Friends now, so it's in its height, as you said, awards, the biggest show in the world, et cetera, et cetera. So what was the process like of you being considered for this character of Mona, and how long of a process was it before they said you're the one?
I mean, honestly, it was probably the best. I think I will never have that experience again. Like, it was so lovely and so positive and so, like, I remember I went in and I had just cut my this is funny. I had just cut my hair off because I was dating a guy at the time.
Mm.
No offense to my husband, but I was
I think
dating.
he's out of the picture by now, that guy.
Oh,
I
the
think
old guy?
the guy you cut your hair
Oh,
for.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
No,
think we're good. Yeah.
he was like, "You should cut your hair," and this was, again, the 90s, your show, but in the 90s, there was, like, Linda Evangelista and Christy Turlington, like, there was a very different time, and short hair was very in at the time, and I just cut my hair off because I was just, like, bored and not doing anything. And I'm not saying that that was the reason, but I definitely think I remember when I was in the waiting room, every other girl had like long blonde hair, like I do now.
Mhm.
Um, and I had this like short bob, and I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna be myself. And I went in, and the audition, it was only to have 2 words at the episode was the one where she says, "I do," friends. It
Okay.
was the opening episode of season 8. And I went in, and I remember this clearly. It was August, it was sweltering hot. I was in my car. I had a Bronco, Ford Bronco at the
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
I miss that Bronco. Um, and I was like, again, like, so young and just whatever, which is what we should all like keep with us for the rest of our lives. I went in and I just was kind of like, okay, I'm gonna write it a few times. They said, "Oh, you want to improv?" I said, "All right." I improved a few times.
Hmm.
I was just like at that point, I was just, like, broke and
Didn't care. You
didn't
didn't worry.
didn't
You
care. Yeah, yeah, I cared.
caution to the wind. Yeah.
Yes, I cared, but like I didn't. You know what I mean? Like I was just like at that point having a rough year,
Yeah.
and my agent called me and said, uh, "So they booked you. You have to show up on Monday." Um, and they booked you for 3 more episodes. I was like, "What?" Because it was only supposed to it was 3 lines.
Yeah.
It was 3 lines. And he said, "Whatever you do, don't mess it up. Just show up and go there." And I was like, "Okay." And then, um, I remember sitting in the dressing room, like, going, "This is crazy." And then they kept booking me. They kept giving me another, which is a lovely testament to me. But I think it's really because I was at a point where I was like, okay, whatever.
You let your guard down and you
I let
just
my
went
guard down.
for it.
I
Yeah.
let I let my guard down. I wasn't worried about what I was wearing, or I just and then I met David Schwimmer, and he was really truly amazing to me. He liked what I did. He
Mm.
loved my jokes, and he definitely spoke for me to get me back 100%.
Yeah. That's amazing. And you guys worked so well together. And I mean, I've certainly seen it on like Facebook groups about Friends fandom and stuff, Friends fans. And I've seen it like talked about and commented on, like these theories that like Ross and Mona should have stayed. They were better for each other than
Yes,
Ross
I
and
still get
Rachel.
that. I still get that. I get that today. Today I can't tell you how many days I get tweets or what, like, you should have been back. What it's I'm honored. I'm like, I'm honored because
And
the 27-year-old struggling actress. I like it still like touches me so much.
And it's amazing to me because when you think about the history of Friends, right? Again, going back to I almost look at it like the lineup of all the bad guys on the old Batman TV show. Like that's how I think of all the like disposable boyfriends and girlfriends of Friends. Like they show up to be eventually defeated, to show a
Right.
flaw and to be
Oh,
kicked to the curb,
oh yeah,
and
and
the world is supposed to hate them.
yeah, I get I get hate. I get hate you would not believe.
Oh,
You would not believe the amount of hate that I get.
because you were in the way. I mean, you were in the way of Ross and Rachel. So inevitably, there's that group of people who are like, no, she had to go. She
Yeah.
had to meet an untimely fate one way or the other.
Oh, yeah. And people, and I always say this, and I understand this as an actress because when I wanted to be an actress when I was little, I really, really was in love with the shows. You know, I like Little House on the Prairie. Like my dad's not in my life, but I thought that he was my dad. When I would watch Little House on the Prairie, I was like, that is my dad, and I understand that, and I think it's beautiful. I think it's an amazing thing to do for people, you
Yeah.
know? But I really thought that like Charles Ingalls was my dad.
Do you
You know?
think like, do you put thought into sort of the lives of your own characters that you play, like, beyond what we get to see on the screen? Like, have you ever thought about, everybody still, no matter what, no matter how many times everyone says no, everybody would love to see a Friends reunion show or a revisiting of the characters. Have you ever thought about what Mona would be doing now after the last time we saw her, the relationship with Ross ends? What happened to Mona? What do you think?
Yes.
You have what's the
I
theory?
do you know what? Because I have also since Mona, obviously, in case people don't know, I've done a lot of other things.
Yeah,
Um, I've had shows where I've been fired or let go and um, hurtfully and like they don't address your character. You know what I mean? It's very weird. It's very weird. It's
sure.
like you exist and then you're gone. So yeah, I've thought of like what happened to Mona, and I'm like, the salmon, like, because the funny thing about Mona is she dumped Ross.
Yes.
I think people forget that when I get all this play, like people forget Ross did not dump Mona.
Right.
Mona told Ross, "You're weird. Get out of my apartment." Like,
Which was
can we just acknowledge that? Like,
abs that's what I'm saying. Mona
yeah,
was the rare character
yeah,
who was actually normal, so she couldn't fit into his world or
right,
any of their worlds
I,
because,
yeah,
Ross and Rachel were so messed up, they had to be together.
right. And I think the writers, I mean, uh, Mona was like a really cool female character. She was like, "Where's this going?"
Mhm.
Which is I can't I love that scene. Where is it
She
going? It's
she
going somewhere fun. No, that's wrong. But Mona was really independent and she was like, "What up, dude? Like, are you in or you out?" Um,
she was reasonable. She was
yeah,
the only reasonable character in the history of Friends.
yes, she wasn't ridiculous at all in any situations. Like when Rachel's dad um came out. I mean, God bless. I mean, she was completely like, what the fuck? Like, sorry, what the F?
That's cool.
She was not a wimp at all, at all. I never felt for 1 second that I was playing a wimp. And I have played that girl role many,
Mhm.
many, many times. That's not, she was never like that. So sometimes I get emails or texts from people like, "Oh, poor Mona." And I'm kind of confused. I'm like, poor Mona. She was the one that was like, "Where's this? What are we doing?
Yeah.
Where are we going? What's gonna happen?" And then ended it. And then like got her salmon shirt, whatever, and said, like, "Get out of my house, you creep." So
So, you can get as specific as you want, but when we're looking at the hypothetical present day of Mona,
oh.
I'm thinking she did just fine. What do you think? I
I
think
mean,
she was okay.
have you seen me? I think she did fine. I'm kidding. I'm just gonna get like a ton of hate mail. I think
No.
Mona did okay. I think Mona did okay. I think she was very honest about what she wanted, and I really I like her. Like I'd want to be friends with her. I would like, and then that's the writers. I think she was really cool. You
Yeah.
know.
And this, and now I have to ask you about a different character that you
Oh no.
played, specifically because it's something I've seen you in recently. I was
Oh
very
no.
surprised to see you
Oh,
there, but such a very different situation, such a very different character than Mona. Um, Last year, I believe it was on Starz Heels. For those who didn't see it, a family drama about a family who are professional wrestling promoters in down south somewhere. I don't
Georgia.
remember. Okay, yes, and you popped up on there, and you're playing a valet, I think would be the term for it, right? Like you were
Yeah.
part of the act with a wrestler, and I'm a
Mhm.
big wrestling guy, so I'm trying to explain this stuff in a way that non-fans understand because I'm a little too geeky about the stuff. But it's yourself paired with a male wrestler played by a very
Mhm.
big name in pro wrestling, CM Punk. And you guys are just playing this kind of down and dirty couple that you're a traveling wrestling act with
Mhm.
kind of a sordid relationship even between the two of you that we come to find out throughout your time on the show. So, I mean, first of all, what did you know about that world before you got that role? Because that's a very, very specific world to explore.
What world are you talking about? Being like
Prof-
having an affair? Because that I never had any knowledge of.
no, 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 no. I mean, just being in the lifestyle of
Yeah.
being a traveling
Right.
pro
Yeah.
wrestler, a pair of not big time, global WWE level stuff. This is depicting sort of the lower level, scratching to,
Yeah.
stay afloat traveling wrestler.
I actually did not know a lot, although I have a few friends um, that I learned. I've kind of dabbled in that WWE. Like I kind of like I'm just, you know what I mean? I'm like, I can see it or not see it.
Mhm,
Um, and I have some friends that are friends with some of those people. So, I've always kind of watched it a little bit, but
mhm.
it's not like my thing. You know what I mean? It's not my
Right,
thing.
right.
Um, uh, I did not know until I got the role how big CM Punk was.
Mhm,
I had no idea how famous he was. Um, but I have, dabble. I mean, I love boxing. I'm a boxing fan, but
mhm.
that's a whole other beast. So I didn't really know much about. No, I didn't know much about like the girls. I guess I should say the girls that work in the in that, not the wrestling girls,
Right.
but the girls that surround it. Let's say no better cheerleaders. Not that they are, but I didn't know
Mhm.
anything about that
The
at all.
managers, the valets, just part of I mean, this is more of an old school concept, just a male wrestler having, like, a girl
Right,
at his side, at
right,
ringside,
right.
cheering for him,
I
getting
thought that
involved
was
in
I thought that was completely politically incorrect, but it's not.
look, there's a lot about pro wrestling, especially when you go back to the old fashioned aspects of it that are extremely politically incorrect,
Oh,
but much more so behind the scenes,
yeah,
perhaps,
I
than
didn't
what
know.
the show is, which is really what Heels is all about. So you got to kind of flesh out being a veteran woman on the
Yes.
road, so to speak, and giving
And I
advice
loved
to.
it. I loved it. By the
Yeah.
way, I loved it. Like I researched it. I loved it. I watched it, and it's like being an actress. I mean, these people are actors. You might think it's ridiculous, but they're acting and they're putting themselves out there. So anything of that sort
Yeah.
I mean, that's my jam. So once I started to look at it, I was like, "Oh my god, I wanna make Vicky Ray be as crazy as possible because it's an act. It's an act."
That's what it is. Yeah,
Yeah,
So yeah, it was really cool. It was cool to see you in that different environment and playing
Thank you.
such almost unrecognizable in a way because again, such a different type of character.
Yeah.
For you to experience being a part of as well, I'd imagine.
And I loved it. By the way, I absolutely loved it because, yeah, I don't usually get cast in those, I don't know, typecasting, whatever the business, but I crave playing those characters that are so different. And
Yeah,
she really was like the antithesis of me. So I loved it.
that's
I
that's
love
a
the show, and I love the show.
that's great. Yeah, and we're waiting on season 2 for that, and
I,
uh,
I
hopefully season 3 and 4 and 5, and
yeah.
inevitably the return of our esteemed guest this week because it's got to happen at some point, right?
Well, I hope so. It's really fun to get those, like you said, get those roles that are not what people think you are.
Mm,
It's really exciting because it's just nature of the beast, right? Like you play a cop. I've played a cop 3 times. You play a sitcom wife. You 3 times. Like it's hard to branch out and get those other roles. So that was really, really awesome.
yeah, and branching out seems to be something that I mean, you're great. I mean, you've done so many different types of things and, many opportunities to do something different than what you've done before. But I want to talk about something you've struck some success with more recently in a totally different direction. That's your podcast, Second
Oh,
Act.
mm.
Uh, so tell us, I mean, because as we speak, I know that you've got season 2 in the works, right? We've
Yes.
enjoyed the first batch, it's coming back. But what led you to first decide you want to do something where you get to just be you and put yourself out there, not a character?
Honestly, it was, going through a rough time in my life personally, professionally. Um, actors are sometimes not honest about dark times or like when they get fired or, in between roles and, not being married when you thought you were, or my stepdad died. Like basically just any experience where you've been down.
Mm,
And one of my closest friends, literally, this is the only reason, she said, "You just need to find your second act. You're going to be okay.
mm,
You need to find your second act." And that goes for everybody. Like it doesn't matter what you could be in any business, but I was just at this like place, and I was like, "Oh yeah, okay."
Is that kind of meta? Is the podcast in your eyes, is it kind of your second act while also talking about finding your second act?
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of I've kind of let the ball drop, and that's my own problem. And again, even letting the ball drop, I'm like, wow, this is again second act, right? Like you can pick it up. You know what I mean? So it's kind of because I went through a lot last year. I mean, everybody, I mean, the last 3 years, everybody has been through God knows so much, right?
Sure,
COVID,
sure.
getting engaged. But it's funny because I said to one of my best friend, I said, "Oh, I'm gonna start it again." And she's like, "Well, you have the best tag, like second act, you know what I mean? Like it's never too late."
Mm,
That's what it means. So and somebody who's done, I mean, God, I started modeling at 18. I had a record deal at 19. Like it's been the last 30 something years. It's just been, you know, a
constant.
lot of success, so grateful, but a lot of heartbreaks. Like, you know what I mean? And I met the love of my life uh, older than I thought, and that's okay. But some people need to hear that. You might not meet the love of your life. My friends were all 30. My He's sitting over there. I mean, I met mine at 46. I mean, that's okay. So kind of the story of it is just yeah. Like, it doesn't matter. You can, it's never too late to be what you might have been. That's the whole motto of it. So even though I dropped the ball and stopped it, I'm going to pick it up again, and I'm going to be honest and go, well, I had a rough year. So here we are again, because if not that, then what? Like,
It's real life. I mean, what better show of this nature can you put out than one that reflects your real life struggles and the challenges, and that's all kind of baked into the show. So I think,
right.
like, that's such an amazing thing to go back and put out now and have people like learn from your genuine real life experiences facing the same kinds of challenges that you're trying to help them with.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like I'm probably too honest and open sometimes. I know my family, I get called out, but I definitely think if I can help anybody,
Mhm,
like, I know a lot of people look at me and they go, "Oh, you're on Friends," and they just think, they don't know that that's like one moment. That moment might have been perfect.
mhm.
Okay, but that's one moment 20 years ago.
Yeah,
So you're seeing it on Netflix now. That's 20 years ago. So
yeah.
we still have to live and evolve and fall in love and learn. And if I could help anybody, I don't know, man. Like, I want to. So
That's awesome. That's amazing.
thank you.
Now I know there's going to be an announcement forthcoming when you're ready to get it going, when you're ready to put it out there into the world again.
Yes.
Where do you want people to follow you, find that information, and be ready to jump on it when season 2
Oh,
lands?
I want them to jump on it now. What is it, babe? Second act underscore second act. Sorry, second act. It's second acts. My name.
Mhm,
It's on Instagram. It's on iTunes. Anywhere you can listen to the last year. There's some amazing interviews of friends last year that I admire and respect so much. Like, way bigger than me.
mhm,
So it's, yeah, second act. My name, Bonnie Somerville. SOM. One M.
mhm.
ERVILLE.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Bonnie, we're excited. We've got a lot to chew on now. For those of you who haven't checked the podcast out, you can catch up on
Yeah.
everything that Bonnie's done as we look to her just doing more and more, and living her truth and being too honest and and doing it all for everybody else. So and obviously continuing to watch you and where you're going to pop up on the big screen, on the small screen, uh wherever in the entertainment world you choose to go next. We're excited to see it. So
Thank you. And can I just say,
yeah.
guys, don't believe everything you see on the internet. That's all I want to say.
Absolutely not. Except this show is
Except for sure.
fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Bonnie, thank you so much for joining the show. It's
Thank
been so
you
awesome to
so
talk
much.
to you.
Pleasure. Thank you
Thank you.
so much.
Absolutely. And thank you guys for checking us out this time out on 90s to Now. Please subscribe, share, rate, review, do all the things you can that you know how to do to help us grow and continue to give you conversations and guests like Bonnie. And thank you guys. We'll see you next time here on 90s to Now. Thank you, Bonnie.
Bye.